Hey, fellas. Brian, just wait for your audio to get turned on. Hopefully, Brian has good service where he is. How you doing, Darin?
I'm doing awesome, Brent. How are you?
Hey, buddy.
I'm really well. Hey, Brian.
There you are.
How you
Good to
doing?
see you, man.
I'm well,
What's
thank
going
you.
on?
This is a really great moment.
Yes, it
That would be
is.
great. There he is. What up, B?
It's happening.
Good to see you,
How are
brother.
you?
Thank you guys for your time,
Problem.
My pleasure.
and we'll just get right into it. So, welcome to the Pharms Not Farms podcast. I'm here today with two very special guests, and quite often I bring people onto this show in order to share, in order to open a window into the life of a luminary, the life of somebody who's doing great things in our world, or who's doing things in our world, who has done things in our world that I think are worth learning about, right? And we can make our own, opinions or assumptions based off of what we're learning about who they are, what they're doing. In this particular episode, I think it's really special because we have somebody on here who got brought to me, so to speak, referred to me looking for help and needing options in terms of their health. And then somebody else who got brought to me, referred to me by somebody in the caring realm, who said, this man can help people if you ever know anybody who needs help. And so in this miraculous window, creator is revealed through action. And so this is kind of a miracle episode where we get to have a group conversation with just showing a little bit of reality. And so first and foremost, we can just introduce ourselves real quick before I get into some questions. And let's just start. Brian, do you want to introduce yourself first? And then Darin, you can introduce yourself, and then we'll get right into it.
Yeah, how you doing? My name is Brian. I live in Rhode Island, and this is what I do. I work with cannabis, and I help people. And Darin was brought to me to help him by you, and that's pretty much where we went from there.
Okay, so what have you been doing in the cannabis? What's your experience in the cannabis world? Just as a quick introduction to who you are and what you've been doing.
Well, I learned. I started out growing, and then I started making edibles, and I just was making cannabis oil for people, just friends. It was referred to me through other people, and I've just been making so much of it over the years, and then I stopped doing it for a while. I moved up to Maine for a little while to get an edibles company going for someone, but we had to move back because of some personal reasons with family. So we're back in Rhode Island, and we're doing our thing again. We're helping people. I just made a fresh batch of cannabis oil for some people, and got to get that out to them. Darin, again, being one of them. He had just asked me recently for another tube. So, yeah, we got that for you, buddy. Whatever you need. I don't know. I haven't weighed it yet, but we got whatever you need. We probably got maybe 50, 60 grams. So,
Wow.
we just got another donation from somebody who always gives me all their trim. every run they give it to me, so I'm able to make some. They don't want any back, anything. They just, here you go help people. So that's what I've been doing.
It's amazing. That's how Guerrilla Healer started, just by giving out oil for years and not ever even accepting a penny from anybody, and
Exactly.
just running this emergency relief fund. And it's not the easiest thing to do, and it really is a service dependent upon the community to contribute to that fund, so that good people who are otherwise out of options can perhaps find some relief going. And
The
so,
person who, oh, sorry.
please.
The person who donates it actually has MS, and they don't even they can't use it. It destroys them. They've got other they do other forms of cannabis to help them. So, but yeah, she just go help people. Here you go. So I just wanted to throw that.
And by destroys them, you mean she just gets way too knocked out from the oil?
Yeah, she just gets she gets way too high. So she vapes. It's a little easier for her.
That's good. Everybody's different. The safe access allows us to find out what options work best for us.
Right.
Two twins with the same issue could need a different treatment. So it's important in that way that we, have access to these options. Somebody might need a different strain in the morning that you might need in the afternoon, that you might need at night. And so even in that way, so many people in the world don't have any access at all to any cannabis, let alone cannabis oil. And so, many of us are blessed in any sense to have it at all. So thank you for doing your part in that way, in this way. And, being such a light that I wanted to bring you on the show to show some of the work that you've done. Darin, if you'd be so kind to introduce yourself real quick so that people can get a glimpse of who you are. And
no doubt. So first, before I introduce myself, I want to thank you and Brian, two people that are instrumental and very important in my life. I love the both of you guys. Okay, I mean, you really, I need to get that right out of the way first and foremost. My name is Darin XL the Beast, aka XL the Beast. I'm a musician, singer, songwriter, actor, father of 3, and I'm a sober guy, which is a really important element to this entire process. I'm from Massachusetts, and I've been under your direction and Brian's direction, receiving care for ailments for the last, 4 years now? 4 or 5 years, yeah.
Probably longer than that.
Yeah, maybe they might be going on 6.
When I met you, your daughters were like 6 months old.
Oh my God, it's been 7. Oh, so it's been 6 is almost 6.5 years. Yeah, 7 years, almost 7 years. Yeah. Wow, Jesus. Time waits for no one. It's been a blur. I have twins, so like there's a thing called twin brain, and when you have twins, you lose whole segments of your life. And it's without a doubt. I mean, Brian's been around. Brian and I are family at this point. You know what I mean? We're obviously more than dear friends, we're family, and we're super connected. And he knows my children and my family. He knows everybody. So
love it.
He knows.
Well, shout out to Mr. DL for doing the work that got us connected.
Yes, without a doubt. Love Mr. DL. Mr. DL, that's my man right there. He's a very hardworking guy, and he's a very centered person when it comes to caring for people and looking out for people. He always shows up.
Definitely somebody who I enjoy, as well as aside from being a good person, he's in the music realm, which is how great. And he also loves cannabis, probably much, if not, I don't know if it's possible to love it more, but we love cannabis. And so we enjoy that in each other. And so that's, of course we love Cypress Hill too. So we'll just put that out there.
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't love Cypress Hill?
Right.
So yeah, without further ado, Darin, if you would be so kind to maybe open up a window into what you were experiencing, perhaps even the ailment you were suffering from, or that created the need for you to look for options that you weren't finding.
Right. So, what ultimately led me to get help was I was suffering from I had a really bad bout of diverticulitis, which had ended up in the hospital with a perforated intestine. I was really sick. Before that, leading up to that, I had gone through years of of like these undiagnosed health issues that ultimately came from a toxic shock, so to speak, from working in an unhealthy landfill. And it kind of changed my body on a molecular level, and I developed allergies that didn't show readily. I had tons of health issues, and then it dissipated, but it ended up manifesting in the form of diverticulitis. The allergies created these pockets in my intestine, and I was in severe pain. It happened. I got it once really bad. I was in the hospital. I had no idea what was wrong with me, and then it happened again like another 8 months later, and I was really, really sick. There were just moments where the fever and the shock, the toxic shock of it all, when I was in that hospital bed, the 2 times I was in the hospital with it, I thought I was going to die. And when I came out, I needed to have a different approach to it, because I knew that I had to change like my eating and find out about allergies, but there was still significant amounts of pain. Even when I changed my diet, I was in tremendous amounts of pain. I couldn't eat, and I didn't want to take pain pills. My digestive tract was all messed up. So that was where I was. I was in a really bad place. I was a lot heavier than I am now. But I was constant pain, and I couldn't eat anything, and I was always afraid of getting the diverticulitis. And that was when Mr. DL reached out to me, who then put me in touch with you, Brent, and then through the network put me in touch with Brian. And that was the ailment that I was truly suffering with. It was just abdominal pain, and just it was like I could do nothing, right? I couldn't work, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't function. I mean, I was a father that couldn't really do much to help his wife and kids. You know what I mean? So I thought I was gonna die. I was ready to die. My life was so destroyed by what had happened to me that it was just I could understand how people wanted to die quick and get it over with. You know what I mean? So
that's pretty loud, loud in the sense that knowing, seeing how vocal you are about how much you love your family.
Yeah.
And to know that you could be inspired by pain, by such agony that, you'd be willing to accept death. That's profound.
I have a high tolerance of pain too. So, I mean, it's like abnormal. And so that'll let you know, like I have an extremely high threshold. So the pain that I was in was so severe, and it was so prolonged over such a period of time. I'm talking years, right? With minor respites in the middle of it here and there. That it's just kind of like, I'm like, I don't even care. I can't even deal with this anymore, because the doctors they just want to open you up and cut a part of you out or give you meds, and that was just not working. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that.
Was it identified back then, or is it something that is the math in your mind that says that this stems from the working at the landfill?
Well, no, it definitely does. The reason why is that I developed diverticulitis at a young age. It's not common for someone my age to get it. Okay. And the reason was because that landfill, it shocked my body, and it changed me on a cellular or molecular level in ways that I developed allergies to foods and to certain things that I had never had before, but they didn't show, like, if you have an allergy to something, you swell up or you get itchy or your throat gets itchy. These were internal. So I was eating foods and, drinking things that I shouldn't have been drinking or eating, and they were just grenades going off in my intestine, in my stomach, and it would show itself as an upset stomach. So my clue was like, okay, I can't have dairy anymore. I had no idea that I was allergic to peanuts and peanut butter and, all these like salads and these raw fruits and vegetables. And, and then they started to progress and get worse. But by the time I recognized that they were allergies, the damage had already been done.
And growing up, were you allergic to peanuts and these other raw fruits?
No. And I never had allergies. I never had any of that stuff. I was a healthy, strong kid, and boom, like mid to late 30s, bang, it just went, you know. And in the initial stages before the diverticulitis, I spent like 2 years in limbo. I lost like 118 pounds. I couldn't eat. I was bloating all the time. I was in and out of the hospitals. They had me swallowing radioactive eggs and taking all these things, and they knew something was wrong, but they couldn't pinpoint what it was.
Okay.
And it went on like that for 2 years, and then it went abated, and then it came back in the form of diverticulitis, and that was kind of when we were able to kind of backtrack and piece together what had happened.
Yeah. So did you try a myriad of treatments that weren't working for you, or what?
Yes, nothing was working, and it just kind of I was subsisting on like yogurt and crackers and chicken, like just dried chicken, just dry eggs, toast,
whatever you could try and keep down.
Well, whatever wouldn't cause me pain, right?
Okay.
Like my stomach would distend and bloat. And then when that kind of like started to, it was marginalized a bit, and I found a way to kind of navigate around it eating certain foods. But then when the diverticulitis hit, we had no idea. I'm like, well, here's that pain again. Am I going to go through this whole thing that we just lived through for the last 2.5 years of my life where I thought I was going to die? And then the diverticulitis came, like, you have diverticulitis, and they explained it to me. I'm like, why do I have that? And they're like, well, it develops usually in people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, not 30s. So after that, the treatments for the diverticulitis was just basically like, okay, don't eat any, veggies raw. Don't eat any, anything that can irritate your intestines or your stomach. And I was like, okay, so I did that, but then it happened again. And they're like, well, this is like a bad section of your intestine. We're just going to have to probably cut it out. And I was like, what? I'm like, you want to, what? And they go, like, going to give you a colostomy bag. And then the other surgeon came in. He goes, listen, it's a 50-50 shot. If I were you, I wouldn't do it. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I wouldn't do it. He's like, I'd find an alternative method to try to heal your body. And that was
good for him.
Like, yeah, he was honest. He was honest. And it's like the position after I started taking the RSO, I had a bout of it again. When I took the RSO, and they diagnosed it, because at that point I knew what it was, and I went and I go, I have diverticulitis, and they're like, okay. And then they gave me antibiotics to kill any infection if there was a leak in your intestine. If it's perforated, you'll get septic and die. So they gave me that to treat it. But I was taking the RSO, and it healed it in half the time that it had healed it prior. And then I haven't had it since.
So
3 years.
At what point from the time where my friend introduced me to Brian and I introduced you guys to the point where you began feeling relief? Like how you were dealing with this pain and in and out of the hospital and whatnot for over 2 years, you said. And then you meet Brian and get some oil. How long after that did you start feeling different?
Within, I would say there was steady improvement within, I think, 30 to 60 days. It was within 2 weeks I started noticing a feeling, not just about the abdomen pain abating, but I felt my body started to feel different on a whole, right? Like, so this whole time I had felt like I was operating in a deficit of like a breakdown of my whole system, right? I felt like my immune system had been compromised. I felt like my body wasn't regenerating, that I couldn't get good rest, that I couldn't do anything. Within the first 2 to 3 weeks, I started seeing positive results. And I would say within 60 days, I had no more pain in my abdomen. And that was when you and I actually had a conversation as well, right around this time. It was when you and I were talking about the keys of diet and things that I might want to try alternatively to improve my gut health, and my overall energy in my body. And I was like, yeah. And I started following some of those cues, and I went down a rabbit hole of finding out like my body type and what's best for me to eat. And then we had a clear outline of what I was allergic to and what I wasn't. And so yeah, I mean, within like a month and a half, like it was all good. And then I had one more bout of it. Like I want to say, like I think it was six months or 8 months later, right, Brian? I think that was when it was. And
Something
then,
like that.
yeah, and then that was when I went into the hospital, and then when I got out, I was taking the RSO. I took it like aggressively, right, like twice a day.
Yep.
And then when I went back, that was when I had a woman doctor came in, and she said, "You're healed. Like it's healed." She's like, I was not expecting it to be healed. She goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I changed my diet. Like I gave up sugar. I gave up this and that. I've increased my water intake. I'm exercising, and I'm taking Ricky Simpson oil, RSO oil." And she looked at me and she said, "Listen, this is verbatim." She says, "I don't have the right to really prescribe or talk about that." And she's like, "And I'm not going to say anything on the record." She's like, "But whatever you're doing with that oil," she's like, "keep doing it because it's working." Right. She says, "I can't put it in my journal and I can't tell you," or, she's like, "We're not allowed to talk like that working in this hospital." She goes, "But I have heard of it. I have seen it. I have read studies on it." And she's like, "It's quite obvious that this element and the change in your life has allowed your body to convalesce at a rapid rate." And I haven't had, and that was probably 5 years ago, right? 4 or 5 years. I haven't had diverticulitis since.
Right.
You look great. I have to be honest with you.
Thank you. Yeah, much better, right? I mean, it's a vast improvement.
Even like your skin's glowing. You look healthy. It's
no,
really
thank
great
you. It's true. It's an entire change. My everything. And I'm going to tell you something too that is really kind of connected to all of this. When you're sick and you're suffering from anything, like it consumes so much of your energy, you can't focus on anything else. You can't focus on mental growth, spiritual growth, physical growth, accountability. You can't do any inventory on yourself. You can't do anything of that because whatever it is that has you crippled that way, controls you, leads you around, it controls every aspect of your life. And I have to tell you something, over the last 3 or 4 years, because I've been pain-free and I haven't had to deal with this constant feeling of pain and feeling like I want to die, I have been able to expand in parts of my life and have awakenings and things happen to me that I didn't ever think were possible, especially then. Like my entire life and its trajectory has changed as a direct result of being pain-free and being in a healthier physical and mental state.
That makes sense to me. Having the ability to have more of a stable foundation enables, is a great breeding ground for growth.
It is. It's the truth.
To have roots really get, solid, planted, and then, really blossom in new ways, and I've seen it time and time again where those of us, who are experiencing dis-ease are being fed information. Just do this and just do this and think this way and think that way. And the intrinsic, relationship of being in a dis-ease tends to be that we're not at ease and we're being consumed. We're consuming ourselves with something that's not good for us. And that doesn't mean that everybody who's sick is unhappy or everybody who's sick is obsessively compulsive over their sickness. Everybody's different. And some people who are sick are very happy and just want to not be sick, For you, what was what was the catalyst for change? It sounds like, yeah, I'll let you tell the story. What was the catalyst for change? And then what was the sustaining factors? You know, you were saying that you had some relapses, so to speak, of the pain coming back, the diverticulitis being inflamed again. Do you think that might have been because of just an anomaly? Do you think you might have started getting complacent with your diet or not taking oil or any of these things?
Yeah, no. Yeah, for sure. Those I remember specifically when I did it, because I wasn't. So it's an adjustment period, right? Like, catalyst for me to be healthy and to want to enact change in my life was once I got a taste of living a life with no pain. And remembering, because it had been so long that I had lived with pain every day for years, that you kind of fall into this malaise and you kind of forget what quality of life is like. You know, you don't give up, but you just kind of like, you try and fail and you get beat down. So I was worn to a nub, but when I had a glimpse of having a life where I could have health and I could have, enjoy the benefits of, having the freedom to operate my life like everybody else is operating theirs, and then having children, my son and my girls, my wife was pregnant, my son was growing, and I wanted to be active, and there was so much I wanted to do. That was it. When I got sick that time, it was right before I had just landed a role in a major motion picture, and I was working, I was eating horribly. My weight was like fluctuating and going in the wrong direction. I was not getting adequate rest. I was not hydrating, and I was trying to do way too much, not for small spurts, but all the time. Right? I was overdoing it in every arena, and it broke me down. And I remember, because it almost cost me the opportunity to be in the film. Like, I ended up in the hospital like 2 weeks. Was it 2 or 3 weeks, Brian? Because you came and saw me. It was before I went and did Black Mass, and I was in Norwood.
Right.
Yeah, and you came in and you saw me.
Yeah.
And I remember, because I grew my hair, my beard all out for the movie. I looked like a wild man. You remember? So I was in the hospital, and I rapidly needed to heal. And that was when that was you, Brian. You told me, you said, listen, take it twice a day, every day, eat your correct diet, get some rest for the first few days so it can heal, and then try to get up and move around a little bit. And I did that. And I remember I was eating farina, excuse me, just plain farina with a little honey in it. And it healed. But that was why, Brent, because I wasn't following my own protocols, the things that, that we had all discussed, a good, healthy plan for my living and to keep myself healthy. I was overwhelmed with life, right? And it's normal, right? You come out of a spot where you've kind of been cooped up for 2 or 3 years. You kind of come out like right out of the cannon. You're like, woo, let's go. You know what I mean? And I can do everything, and ego and, and fear of not being able to have those opportunities again. I overdid it. I don't do that anymore. I don't do that stuff anymore. I kind of I have to put my health and care, physical and mental care, has to be first. You know what I mean? And it's well, listen, for a long time, I didn't believe in myself at all. I walked around and projected a really loud, negative, aggressive attitude, and it was because I was a very insecure person. And that, when you live that kind of way and that kind of life, and try to keep people at a distance because you're scared that they're going to find out that you're scared, you have a tendency to have no medium button. You're either off or all the way on. And and then when you get sick or something happens, I'm like, oh, this must be God punishing me. It's all this big dramatic thing, when in actuality, it's taking care of yourself, mentally and physically. And so I respect the limits of my physical and mental and spiritual limits now, and I make sure that I don't exhaust or bankrupt any of them. And I kind of stay on this balance now, where I am able to do things in a healthy way and maintain that balance as best I can through everything that I do. So that's the truth of it.
What are some of the major dietary shifts that you've made?
Oh, well, no dairy, just cut out dairy completely from me because I'm lactose intolerant, even though, oh God, so no dairy, no butter, no fried foods, no really fatty meats or anything like that. I had to start eating. I have allergies. This is my problem too. I have allergies to fruits and vegetables, so they make my throat and my throat and my gums swell. So I can't eat raw, and because of the diverticulitis now, I can't have raw roughage. I can't have roughage because it'll exacerbate the diverticulum and it will cause a flare up. So those things are gone. So no, I had to increase my water and my sources of protein and alternative means of fiber. So my life now basically consists of, I'll have a cheat day once a week because it's healthy to do that for my body. And it's okay. I like a hamburger, I like a cheeseburger. I will have 3 slices of bacon, once or twice a month. I cook them in the microwave with the paper so that it soaks out all the grease. But I can't eat like Alfredo sauce, right? Like if I eat Alfredo sauce, I'm dead, right? Once a month or once every 2 or 3 months, I'll take the family to San Tapio's to get a pizza. You know what I mean? And it's just so good. I'll be like, all right, I've got 45 minutes to get home. You know what I mean? And we're gonna be all right. But I drink vegetable-based protein shake. I do that. It's an organic brand that I use. I eat a lot of egg whites and garlic. I use all olive oil. I don't use any butter. I eat. I get up in the morning. I have an 8-ounce shake, and I have 2 cups of egg whites cooked in garlic and olive oil. Every 3 or 4 hours, I'll have another shake, and I'll have some clean protein. I'll have shrimp, fish. I'll have some chicken. I don't eat a ton of red meat. I'll have red meat twice a month. What I really miss is salads. I would just, I would give up everything. I would give up pizza, steak, whatever, if I could just eat salad. I grew up eating salad, right? Like we ate salad. There was always a salad on my table. But those things, I gave those up. I don't drink soda. If I'm really tired, like if I've worked, like last night, I had to work. I had to do like double duty. I had to work, and then I had to, it was in the studio really late, so it was really tired. So I had a coffee with sugar in it. I'll put, a couple scoops of cane sugar in it, but mostly I drink my coffee black. No soda, no diet soda. I stay away from the aspartame, stuff like that. I'm not a big candy guy anyway, so I don't really care about that stuff. But sugar and lots of carbs, that's all that stuff's all gone. I don't eat it,
Fair enough. So, obviously, in life, from what I've seen, making baby step changes is how we lead to seeing real growth. And so, obviously, it's working. Here you are, many years later, shining a lot brighter. And
thanks to you two saving my life. Unbelievable. Just like how can somebody express gratitude like on that level? I mean, really, like literally, the both of you saved my life, right? Like you saved it. Like I didn't have a life I felt worth living. I was in constant pain. I hated the thought of getting up every day. But this whole network started with Mr. DL and you, Brett, and then Brian. It changed. It didn't just deal with that one situation. That was a catalyst for me to change the rest of my life. So you're all interwoven and connected to all of that.
Well, shout out to 1000 Watts Magazine. They definitely care and about people. And, I just want to say that, loud and clear. And also want to say, and, Brian may have his own things to say, though, you say, how do you thank us? I would say just thank God, because like that's how we have this plant. That's how we have any sort of life at all. Creator gives us life. So in that way, I'm grateful that we get to exist and and do this work. It's kind of amazing that people are in jail, people are being put to death all over the world. People are in jail for this point, and we're here talking about how it saved your life. So,
it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me, but they'll let they'll manufacture alcohol and pills, and those people is driving Bentleys and flying on private jets. You know what I mean? But somebody want to grow a plant in their yard to help themselves, and they kill them for it to put them in prison.
Right.
It's archaic, right? It's really archaic way of thinking. It's antiquated. I mean, it oh my God. Ugh. Frustrating, man. It's ignorant. It's ignorant, right?
It is very.
Yeah, they say that if we don't know, then we're naive. If we know and we choose to do it anyway, we're willfully ignorant. And the U.S. government has known, patent 6630507. You can look it up. The medical benefit of cannabis is known by the U.S. government. They patented it. So the Schedule 1 factor of cannabis that says there's no medical value is complete and utter false. And with that in mind, we've known for thousands of years that this is a medicine. We're preaching to the choir at this point. So anybody who's unwilling to look is just that, unwilling. And
let me ask you something. Please. Something about the truth of all the way back to when you had the lumber barons and the paper barons, and they were offering trees for everything, trees for paper, trees for rope, obviously for lumber, and you had other people that were using hemp and the cannabis plant in order to create paper, and they said, listen, we can create entire crops of this. We don't have to cut down trees, and we can create rope and paper from this. And those lumber barons came in and said, no, the natives smoke this stuff and it makes them crazy, and these guys want to make paper and rope out of it. They did that to corner the market. They just kind of pushed that out, and you think about what kind of world we would have lived in, that if back then, if free market really existed and the best option for the human race and mankind would it be making paper out of a plant versus trees. Can you imagine how many trees would be left on this planet right now? I mean, can you imagine what the landscape of this world would look like? How many years ago we would have been using cannabis and the application that we're just starting to really harness now, like on a massive scale? Oh my God. I mean, it's just like, it's all the way back then. We're talking lumber barons, right? Like, not steel, lumber barons being like, no, outlaw that, get some money, make it illegal, and we'll just give you paper from the trees. How wasteful. It's like, oh my God, dude. What are you people doing?
There's an episode in this season 2 of Pharms Not Pharms podcast where I speak with Brigitte Mars talking about, how we're mowing, we're using gasoline to mow our lawns, and we're using chemicals to kill weeds. And these weeds are more often than not incredibly nutritious vegetables like wild spinach and dandelion. So we're mowing them, and then we're driving using gasoline again to drive to the store to buy vegetables that are not as nutritious anymore because they've been there for weeks and been traveling around the world, probably from another country, right? More oil and gasoline to be put in plastic to then bring all the way back home to eat it when we're literally getting rid of the stuff that's growing natural in our backyard. And most people, don't ever realize it. Let's just talk for myself. I didn't ever realize until I learned about Brix count and the nutrient density of a plant, how the plant is strong based on its cell walls, based on the nutrients that it's able to uptake. And that is indicated by the health of the soil and whether or not if the soil is healthy and there's a healthy mycelium, which is a fungal community, basically that allows the plant to take in its nutrients really well from the soil, and plants actually communicate through that way as well. And so getting strong vegetables means that we're going to get the nutrients that we need, because imagine seeing a vegetable that looks and smells like a vegetable, but it doesn't have the same nutrient count. Our body's working the same amount in order to break it down. And if we're not getting what we really need out of it, we're getting robbed of our energy. And we're not, you if you feed something that that needs nutrients, a lack of nutrients over time, and making them work the same amount over time and over time and over time, it's going to develop weaker individuals. And so that's happening to us, and just being on the island of Hawaii and eating live fruits all the time, you feel alive. These living enzymes, talking about living soil, and then talking about eating a plant that was just growing versus eating a plant that's a week old versus eating a plant that's a month old. I'll tell you straight up, from juicing vegetables, you're going to have great juice the first day, less juice the second day, and, minimal juice the third day, if any, and like, especially in cannabis leaves where juicing is so beneficial. The second day, you've lost half of your moisture count, if not more, in the leaf. And so you really have to do everything nice and fresh. And so when we're shopping for foods, when we're feeding ourselves, and we want to be nice, strong candidates for life, it's important that we're getting good nutrients. I just want to put that out there, because I'm learning.
That's what my father said, right? My father grew up, during the Great Depression, and he had 11 brothers and sisters. His father died, and they had to have a garden. So we always had a garden. And my father, I remember I bought a pair of Air Force Ones. It was just a long time ago. The first Airs, Nike Airs. Paid $110 for them. And he looked at me and he's like, I ought to give you a smack. He's like, you paid $110 for those shoes? He said, do you know what kind of food we could buy in this house? He goes, remember something. He goes, it's not what you put on your body, but in your body is going to make you who you are. He's like, they call it fast food because it kills you quick. He's like, if you want to live a long life and be healthy, make your meals at home. You have your own garden, you have your own chickens, you have your own livestock or whatever you want to eat. He goes, you grow it all. You care for it. You care for the soil. You care for everything around you. Brett, I agree with you 100%. I know Brian keeps a garden too. I mean, he's the same way. He's part of that, era where, he wants to know, because Brian really cares about the food he puts in his body, because I've seen him. He doesn't put crap in his body. He eats good food, and he knows what good food is, and he cooks good food.
Look at that long flowing hair.
Dude, he cooks. He's an excellent cook. And you can get like some gourmet fixings at Brian's house.
One of the things that I learned recently was that during the Great Depression and around that time, it's amazing you bring this up in this conversation. It was said that the rich people didn't want to look poor, so they had monocrop of grass and they mowed it so they didn't look like they needed to have their own garden. And apparently the poor people needed to have their own garden, and they weren't rich, so they had to feed themselves. And somehow that became the norm of, like, how to be civil in society or something like that. And actually have some sort of, like, that's what everybody's doing in the development. That in suburbia, you drive through this country and you're seeing, New Jersey popped up everywhere. It's just constant shopping centers. It's the same cookie cutter thing everywhere, and that shows us how dependent we are as people on what we don't even realize. We're dependent for our water now. We're dependent for our food now. We're not realizing our water quality. We're not realizing our food quality. We're dependent for so much more in areas of our life that we're giving up our freedoms in order to have convenience. And really, Brian, why do you grow your own food?
It's healthier than what I would get in the store. And I just enjoy gardening so much. That's basically it.
That's a blessing. Not everybody does enjoy gardening or has the time to do it. But if you said the first thing was it's healthier than what you can get in the store. What basis do you have for that?
Because fresh comes right off the plant. I mean, I would come out in the morning. I mean, I don't have a garden this year, unfortunately, but usually I'd come out in the morning and I would be picking everything, everything for the day, and half the time some stuff wouldn't even make, I only have like a handful of string beans or something, and they wouldn't even make it in the house. I'd eat them in the morning, stuff like that. But
that's so great, isn't it? Oh, you're fresh right off. Oh man, that's so good.
So what's the difference between eating a freshly grown vegetable or something that's not fresh in the store?
The taste number one right off, and it's a lot healthier for you. Like you said, there's the longer it's off the tree or the plant or whatever, the less nutrients it breaks down, like you think. It's basically it.
So in a world where we're feeding instant gratification, I think you just provided some incentive right off the bat. It tastes better.
Yeah.
So if you want to find the best tasting version of whatever it is that you love, it might, so to speak, that we can actually find that in something that is incredibly fresh. Now, how do we find that? What supermarket can we go to that guarantees us that this was picked this week or even last week? Very few, unless there's a local market that's working with local farmers. And there's definitely, I don't know if you guys have in your areas CSAs or local farms that allow the community.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
And a lot of the big chain like supermarkets here, like quality ones, they're required to purchase a lot of local grown, stuff like that. Like locally grown vegetables and fruits and stuff. They're required to purchase a certain amount of it.
Good. A lot of the vegetables or some of the vegetables have, or some of the farmers, right? Let's just say almost all corn farmers in the country have contracts with Monsanto to grow certain kind of seed. And so they're guaranteed to be able to sell it, and they can't do anything with the seed. The seed is patented by Monsanto, and they, so in that way, we have a very limited source of what we can get corn-wise. We have a very limited source of what we can get healthy vegetable-wise if a lot of these farms are on a pay-to-play system where they're playing and they're getting paid and they don't want to have to do anything else because the farming industry has been so, destroyed. Let's just be honest. And so, so many farms now have been being drowned in Roundup for so long, and the FDA and the FDA says, or the USDA says now that a farm only has to have 3 years of not being drenched in Roundup in order to be, or used with approved pesticides in order to be deemed organic, which,
unbelievable.
That's bad.
It's crazy. And, so in that way, there's a difference in organic certifications. Looking into something that's USDA organic, great. It's better than not.
Grow your own food.
I know my God was always organic.
Yeah, so grow your own veggies, man. If you can get it, like there's a lot of places where you can have community gardens, you can shared spaces, you can bring your own soil in, learn about soil, learn about loam, learn about composting, learn about the nutrients in the soil and how to rotate it so the temperature doesn't spoil them. Learn how to create, foster a good environment for those plants to grow, whatever you're going to grow. If you have the space, this is what I told people this year. If you have the space, say you like chicken, you like eggs. You want to know the difference between eggs? If you have chickens and they lay eggs, and I go down to the chicken coop and I bring up 5 or 6 eggs, and I make you those eggs, you can never eat an egg that you buy in the store again.
You're right.
It's not the same thing. It is, it's like everything is tainted. Everything is touched and tainted. It is just, it's like something gross or something like Brett said that doesn't belong there. It's like scallops. Scallops, I have a friend that's a diver. And Brian, you can appreciate this because you love scallops like I love scallops.
I have a scallop guy too.
Okay, so when my buddy Mark would call me, he'd be like, "Hey, I'm in Gloucester. I'm going diving. We're going for scallops. It's 10 o'clock. I'll be home at my house by 2 o'clock. Those scallops have gone from the bottom of that ocean floor, plucked out, put in a bag, and they've been out of the water 2 hours by the time they hit my skillet. It's not the same thing. You can't. It's like once you eat that, there's no going back. There's no going back. It's like, no, that's gross. You can taste the freshness.
It's like freshly shucked oysters or freshly shucked clams. Like out here, you go and you go clamming, or you go, you pull up 3 in the rake, you throw 2 in the bucket and eat one. You always carry
one right there.
Yeah, you always carry a knife and a bottle of hot sauce in your pocket when you go.
A bottle of hot sauce. That's my buddy Mark. He eats them on the way up. When he's ascending from his dive, he just scoops out the scallops and eats them on the way up.
Wow,
and it's like, wow, dude, that's unbelievable, Woo! People gotta learn how to, if you have the space. Well, you're seeing more and more now too. After the last years, you're seeing a lot more people they have a desire to move to a place where they have space and a parcel of land.
Yep.
Right? People are looking to even get something small. They don't care if it's a quarter acre or a half acre, something. More and more people are kind of becoming more conscientious about this space and this opportunity to utilize this space. We grew up with a garden. It was a family affair, and everybody in my father's family and all their kids still have gardens. Everybody. We would boil tomatoes in the fall. We'd pick them in bushel baskets. We'd boil them, peel the skin, and we'd jar them. And we'd have fresh tomatoes all winter. It's like you can't, once you've eaten that way and then you have this ability to sense and taste what food does to you. I mean, I can literally look at my life and my health and my weight and everything from the time where I discovered food outside of my house and how everything changed. My diet, my looks, my health, everything. Like when I was living at home as a kid, eating that fresh food. Because like you, Brian, I would go outside with my dad and he had salt and pepper in a shaker that he had for World War II. And we would go out, we would pick weeds, and he had it all mixed up, black pepper and salt in a shaker, big shaker. And we would go out, we would pick weeds. He'd be like, "You hungry?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Go over there, grab 2 tomatoes, grab a couple cucumbers, and grab a pepper." And he had a piece of maple, and we'd wash them off right there in the garden, and we'd eat right there. It's an entirely different experience.
It is.
It's literally, it's like it's still alive. It's like the fruit and vegetables are still alive when you eat them.
Yep. You're right.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, you look at people that eat that way, and you can look in their eye and look at their skin, and you can look at the way they breathe and the way they walk, and how you can look at them, and if you don't look like that, then you need to try to eat like that, because that's what happens when, but it almost becomes for rich people, right, Brett? Like you were saying back in the Depression, how like rich people would mow their lawns so they didn't look like they needed a garden, and the poor people did it. Well, before that, fat guys were in. All the pretty girls chased fat guys because they had bellies, meant that they were eating, right? And if you were skinny, you were broke. But then you look at like those generations and how that all switched and changed when you get to like the 50s and 60s, where they go to like TV dinners and everything else, and it all just kind of it switched around. And now it's like back then people didn't have access to all this fancy food and all this stuff, or vacations. So like if you were physically fit, you were like a strong buff guy, it was probably because you had to work manual labor and you were outside all day and you didn't have a lot of money, and then it shifted. And now all of a sudden, when you see someone that's suntanned and in really great shape, most of the time driving a nice car, it's because they're very wealthy. And now the people that have less money tend to be the people that are obese or have diabetes or people that are unhealthy. It's like that paradigm just flipped. You know what I mean? So it's like now the poor people are overweight and have all these diseases, and the rich people are getting organic vegetables grown in your backyard, right? Because I know people like that have money like that pay small farms to bring them all their produce.
Yeah.
Grow your own vegetables if you can, man. Grow your own veggies if you can. Brett, you said Hawaii. The fruits out there are entirely different. It's like Jamaica. It was like when I was in Jamaica and I had guava and I had oranges and all those things down there. I'd never tasted fruit like that before in
Right.
my life.
You're right.
Not the same.
You're 100% right.
Yeah,
Not
there's no
the
way that
same.
you could have a fruit and not be drenched in juice by trying to open it. You know, it's like try finding an orange in the store right now that's drenching you in juice when you open it up. You're just gonna peel it off and then you're gonna go into it. You know,
it's a different experience, dude.
it's really
not
different.
that whole area. Like I can't even imagine what it's like out on the islands with all that volcanic soil and all constantly replenishing the nutrients in itself.
It's
I can't even
amazing.
imagine what that's like. Oh my God, that must be.
Just for our viewers, if you want to learn more about soil or you're interested in growing your own foods or cannabis, or you know, if it's legal in your area for liability purposes, I just want to say check out buildasoil.com and definitely check out Build the Soil's YouTube, because they have so many resources, so many organic amendments that you can use and learn about, and videos for you to learn from. Buildasoil.com, huge resource for organic growers, and you know, just want people to feel empowered. We're sovereign beings. You know, we have the ability to respond to our abilities, and that means being responsible and taking care of ourselves, and perhaps sharing our abundance with others. And you know, one of the things is in Torah is leaving the edges of the crops of the fields for the poor, you know, and that means growing a crop, and that means taking care of your family, taking care of yourself, and then taking care of your community as well. And that way we have harmony. And whatever you believe in out there, you know, if we can agree on the fact that if you need help and somebody helps you, you're in a better place, then we can agree that we all share that. And in that way, care makes our world a better place. And so opening up this window into, you know, how we're caring for ourselves and each other is really a true gem for me to be a part of and to present and to just, you know, to know exists. So thank you guys for being willing to come on here and share your story. And, you know, Brian, I want to ask you a question.
What's up?
You know, it's possible that everybody who cooks a grilled cheese does it in their own way. Everybody who makes coffee does it in their own little way. There's also the thing where a lot of people do it the same way. You know, in your experience of growing cannabis, in your experience of working with cannabis, in your experience of making oil and working with cannabis oil, what are some of the key factors that you pay attention to for people out here if they want to do similar things to just keep in mind?
You mean like making the oil?
I mean, anything about growing it, making it, qualifying it, anything at all that, you know, when you're going through your processes, you might be like, man, I really wish people knew this, you know?
I really lost you there. Oh, sorry. There you are. Okay. All right. Like, I kind of lost you there for a minute. Can you kind of repeat that? I'm sorry.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So you're an experienced cannabis grower, yes?
Yes.
You're an experienced cannabis oil maker.
Yes.
You're experienced with working with people who apply cannabis to their life-threatening situations.
Right. Yes.
Some of the things you pay attention to, some of the ways that you qualify your cannabis in terms of how you grow it, how you make it, or what somebody might pay attention to when taking oil, or might be different than the person out there who hasn't ever done it before. So what you know, as you're doing these things in your life, there has to be at some points you might, you know, I know for me, I'm like, man, I really wish somebody knew this when I'm working with the plant, or really wish somebody knew this when I'm making oil, or when I'm taking oil, or looking at somebody's oil to see if it's actually like something I would ever use, you know? Is there anything that comes to mind for you that you feel you could share?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I try to pay attention to their needs. You know, if they're inexperienced with taking cannabis in any way. So if they're not, you know, I have to guide them, you take this much, then take this much, then. If they have like stomach ache with it, I recommend something like a cinnamon bark oil. I'll make, to go along with it. I just pay attention to their needs, and, if they need a high dose of THC, I try to make, as high as I can with the material I have. And if they need a high CBD, then I seek out a CBD plant or CBD oil or whatever it may be. I just try to focus on their needs and guide them along their journey, so to speak.
Okay. So when you're growing cannabis, because you're using it more in, for whatever reasons you're using it for, you're also using it for making medicine. So when you're growing your cannabis, what are some of the things that you pay attention to? What don't you want?
What?
What don't you want when you're using cannabis?
What don't I want? I don't want something that is going to be a small producer. I need to get, something that's high quality, high THC, high in just like all the cannabinoids that's going to be helpful to them. I pay attention to that. I pay attention to my soil, pH levels of soil, pH levels of water. I check the plants constantly, like 2-3 times a day. When I'm down there, I'm underneath them. I'm just making sure everything is clean, especially, there's no bugs, nothing. I don't use any pesticides, nothing. If something happened, the crop would be destroyed. So
you're saying you don't use any pesticides, and if there was some sort of compromise with the health integrity of your plant, you might even consider destroying them.
Yes.
Why?
I don't want to compromise anybody. Like if somebody has a compromised immune system and they get something that has mold in it, that would probably affect them.
So, I rarely hear anybody saying these kinds of things. And so I have to salute you, because I share the sentiment that if something is not good enough for me to give to my grandmother or myself, that I would never give it to anybody else. And that means that I have the utmost respect for what I'm working with, because life is we're not doctors. Are you a doctor?
Not at all. Not at all.
So in that way, somebody's relying on what I would do for myself. And if I'm able to share that, I can say, here's what I would do, and here's how I would take it. And somebody has the ability to take it however they want, to do whatever they want. And in that way, treat themselves just like I would treat myself. And I might consult somebody who's experienced, maybe even a doctor, and ask for their consultation to understand what they know about a situation or an ailment, so that I could determine how best to take care of myself. And, let me ask you this: when you're making oil, what are some of the things that you pay attention to that you think are important for people to keep in mind
when I'm making it?
Are there any ingredients that you would never use that some people have used? Are there any things that you would want people to keep in mind? I have a video at 7easysteps.org, the number 7easysteps.org, that shows people how to make cannabis oil in 7 easy steps. So you might have just an area of focus. You might say, I like doing this when I make oil, and that might help somebody level up just the same. So I figured I'd give you an opportunity.
Yeah. I try to use the highest possible alcohol, either ethanol or, like out here, I'm not able, they won't ship ethanol to me out here. So I have to use Everclear, which is readily available to me, no problem, right down the street at the liquor store. So if you try to use the highest possible alcohol you can, get it as cold as you can, get your material as cold as you can. And, you go from there, you mix it and strain it as best as you can. You got to filter it. You don't want like all the sludge that's at the bottom. You want to filter it as best as you can, get that all out, and make sure you get all the alcohol out when you cook it down. And what do you use to filter it?
Do you use a coffee filter? Do you use a lab filter?
I actually was using bubble bags to strain everything out, and that works very, very well.
I was doing that for a while too. It's good because the material can flow right in, and it doesn't,
Yeah, it works very well. I'm like old school, so I kind of like, I've been doing the same process since I started doing it, and the way I look at it is, if it's not broke,
If it's not broke, don't fix it, for sure.
yeah, it's not, everybody still that I make it for, they still tell me, yeah, you're doing a great job. So, I mean, I still have people that contact me all the time. Can you, my sister this, or my uncle that, or my dog. I've helped a lot of pets. So, it's rewarding. It's rewarding when you can help somebody like Darin, and they, you become friends with them, like, family. It's great. That happened a lot, with a lot of different people. I've helped a lot of people, and these people are like family, and it's great. I try to help whoever I can. If I can, if I'm able to, I will help them.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you both. I can't say that enough, really. It's unbelievable. And look, something I want to say is that, I'm a sober guy, right? Like, I've been sober over 20 years, no alcohol, no drugs. So, when I was going to take this, it was important that I get something that wouldn't augment my reality. You know what I mean? And so it had, I didn't want psychotropic compounds in it, because it's something that's important to me, maintaining my sobriety. So if you're a sober person out there, and you need medicine, whatever your channels are that you go through, if there's somebody that you talk to about the proper use of it, but just know that stuff like RSO oil and CBD oil, it doesn't have those compounds in it. It didn't break my sobriety to take that oil, because number one, I wasn't using it to get blasted. I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for the medicinal purpose of that product. And that changed. That's something that's really important for people out there, that, like, for me, that was like my biggest hang up, right? That was like my biggest hang up into going into this. When I spoke to DL, when I spoke to Brent, when I spoke to Brian, I'm like, look, I'm a sober guy. I don't want to get high. I don't want to change my reality. Number one, because my sobriety is very important to me. And number two, I can't handle that. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't done any partying in 20 years with any kind of substance. So I'm the guy, like, if I have an ache or a pain and I take an Advil, it works. You know what I mean? Even at 6'2", 275 pounds, I can take 2 Advil and they really work. So, like, I'm hypersensitive to anything. So people that are out there that are, that are sober people that are, maybe on the fence about looking to get some kind of help like this, there are means through cannabis that you can get help and not get high. You know what I mean? That's, but there are people that, even if you are sober, if you're taking pain pills, you may want to consider an alternative like this. Something else I just want to mention really briefly before we wrap up is that not only did Brian help me, but my friend George, may he rest in peace, was very sick. He had a rare testicular cancer, and they initially thought it was going to fix him. They could cure him, and it turned out that it wasn't. But George hooked up with Brian, and Brian cared for George like you would not believe. And that meant a lot to me. And when George was really sick and George was coming to the end of his life, Brian was in that room. And Brian drove an hour 3 or 4 times a week to come and see George and bring George edibles and bring George oil and bring George whatever he wanted. And these are the kind of people that you're going to meet in this community, okay? People that care about the existence of human life and about helping somebody else. And they ask you what the definition of humility is. The definition of humility, I was told, was, okay, today when you leave here, go do something nice for three different people. And I'm like, well, that's okay. That's easy. I can do that. Don't tell anybody you did it. That's the kind of people that are in this community. They do stuff, and they do it because they want to help people. They care about life. They care about other humans. They care about people living a better life and achieving a better life. Their gratification comes from that selfless caring mechanism, that emotion, that presence of something greater than them that lives inside of them. And I watched Brian care for my friend George, who became his friend George, who he didn't know, and he did it. And when George died, he felt as much pain as the rest of us, but he was there right until the end, caring for George. You know, and that's the kind of stuff that goes on here. Look, these networks, people like you guys, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to somebody on the outside that doesn't know the type of support that goes through these communities and the people that are in here. A lot of really beautiful people in here, man. So that's really important. I love you, Brian. I know, you know, we never forget that, man. It's really gonna make me. I'm gonna cry now. I don't want to cry now, but you know, it makes me want to cry. You know,
yeah, it does.
You know, it's not just my life. I watch. Yeah. You're a really important person to both of you guys. Really important to me.
Yeah, we got to get together and go out and do another Italian day through Providence.
Let's do an Italian day. Yeah, I'll save up my cheat day. We'll do some fishing and then we'll go and do an Italian day.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, one of these days I'll have to join you all. We'll get on the water.
Bring your ass out here. Let's go, man. We have a good time. We know how to catch fish. I'm a catch and release fisherman. I fish freshwater, so I release all the fish I catch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's been a pleasure talking with you. O'Brien, I want to ask you one more thing. When you're making oil for patients, let's just say this: when you're making oil, right? Do you make oil just out of any old cannabis strains, or are you mindful about which strains you're picking and why?
If I can be mindful about the strain, I am. But if somebody's just donating material to me to make it, then it is what it is. But I always get it tested, so everybody knows. I can show everybody the test results. So anybody wants to know, this is what's in your medicine right here.
So if somebody comes to you, you know, obviously every illness is different and every person is different. But if you had your choice on what kind of oil you can make more often than not, what kind of strains would you be using? You don't even necessarily have to name strains, but like what kind of characteristics?
Well, it depends, because I've had people come to me that have told me, look, you know, I have this. Can you help me? Okay. Well, I'm going to give you some, but it's probably going to knock you out. Well, do you have anything, you know, that can keep me awake during the day for work, and then something for at night to sleep? And, you know, I will be mindful about that. Try to get them a sativa for daytime, try to get them the indica for nighttime. But, I mean, I do the best I can with what I have, you know, at this point right now. You know, after just moving back from Maine, we're just, you know, starting up again. So
absolutely,
you know, just got to, I use whatever I can, but I'm always mindful if I can be.
And generally, in theory, I guess one of the reasons I'm asking this question is because for me, I like to use strains that are not going to make somebody too racy in the head and too paranoid. And then at the same time, you know, there are a lot of people that want to be able to have the experience that, let's say, they learned from the Rick Simpson story or Run from the Cure movie, and they say they want an indica-based oil. And at the same time, they say, but I have a job to do and I have to work. And I'm like, okay, same thing as you, you know, we want to be able to function during the day. We want to be able to get what we do at night and then go back and have this cycle of actually benefiting from what we're doing rather than just trying to feed our ego or feed some, like, allow us to exist in the matrix when we're trying to save our life. So, you know, that I see a lot of people doing, you know, the dance to make it work, you know, because many of us have a job or a family or a career or whatever it is. And, you know, obviously, like Darin said, it's possible to utilize something, in this case, Rick Simpson kind of oil, full extract cannabis oil. You know, Rick Simpson says if he didn't make it, it's not Rick Simpson oil. But people know that full extract cannabis oil with that term RSO. So just a little bit of background right there. To utilize that oil that is very high in THC generally and will get you high. There are ways to use that in a functional existence for even somebody that's generally that is sober 20 plus years and has no interest in being, a user or an active addict, that you are able to benefit from it as well. And I think that that's an amazing point that you touched on, because a lot of people out here are suffering and don't want to cross the line and test their limits with some people have had issues with cannabis even. And I know for me, when I did it with more of a life issue, I was running from life and I was using this medicine as a tool to hide, or to mask what was really going on. And, these days I'm communing with it in a different way. And, I still find myself using it more often than perhaps sometimes I need to, and figuring out the balance of how much CBD do I take? Where's my diet at today? And how what my water intake, and where's my balance? Because I'm constantly in this balancing dance of feeling great and enhancing my ability to function better. And then there's times where I need to be out of pain or find relief, or help somebody else guide themselves to their own relief. And so in that way, like Brian said, you might need this in the morning, that in the night, and having options for that is important. Not everybody has that kind of access. So sometimes we're subjected to only what's available. And in that way, it's more often than not better than nothing. I knew a woman that came to this country to get CBD for her son who had seizures for 12 years. And she ended up getting THC oil, and it worked. And, she had no idea that THC oil can help stop seizures. And, and so many people have this template of what's going to work, and I'm only going to seek that. And because I heard that worked for somebody else, and I just want to, support trial and error for each and every one of us, because, it's important that we go through the campaign to find out what works best for us, in a good way. And, so that might mean starting slow and low, and titrating up to a bigger dose to find out where that is. It might mean finding somebody who knows a little more than you, who might be able to guide you back to yourself,
Right.
And there are people like Brian and me who exist in the world that are out here and that are willing to care and willing to at least put their minds towards benefiting where you're at. So Brian, if anybody ever wants to get in touch with you, are you willing to allow people to do so? And if
Yes.
so, how can they do that?
Hey, you can just contact me through my company, Cushville Creations, at yahoo.com.
With Cushville Creations at yahoo.com.
Yes.
And spelled KUSHVILLE Creations at yahoo.com.
Yes.
Sweet. And Darin, if there's anybody who ever has some sort of need to speak to somebody like you who went through a health scenario that needs a light in the tunnel, are you interested in putting your information out there for anybody to contact you?
Absolutely. You can hit me on any of the socials. You can hit me at XL Boston on Twitter. You can hit me at XL Boston on Instagram. You can hit me on XL the Beast on Facebook, and you can just hit me in the DM. Let me know that you're interested to get some information about my process and what took place for me, and I would be more than happy to set time aside to help anybody that has any of those questions.
Thank you very much. Is there anything at all that you guys feel would like to share? Just in closing, anything that's coming to mind you think people ought to at least think about?
Heal yourself. Heal, like it says, Pharms, not farm. Pharms, not farms. Right? Hello.
Yes, sir.
I lost you there for a minute.
Yeah,
like I said, heal yourself. Pharms, not farms.
For sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. And take time. Be good to yourself. And when you're good to yourself, that becomes contagious. You can be good to other people. Don't be so busy to be in the rat race that you neglect the most important part of what's going on, and that's who you are, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Find ways to to heal your body and your mind and get yourself in a place. You know, we get so busy just running the race every day. I got to make this amount of money. I got to get this deadline. I got this. And you can manifest and create, excuse me, a million reasons why you're neglecting the things that are important. You got to take care of your health, you know, in all those three phases. And when you do that, you know, you're going to, in my opinion, being good to yourself. If you want to be good to others, you got to start by being good to yourself. You know, so take good care of yourself. Be mindful of what you put into your body, you know, and see how that works for you. You know, there are other ways out here. You know, commit a random act of kindness. You know, help somebody if you can.
Oh, man.
Feels good.
You know, one of the things you said earlier was that it took you, you know, feeling the relief to know it existed, to know that that's really what you wanted. And it seems as though, like, when we're in the mix, you know, that we not like it, very few things can be said to us to change what we're doing. And so in that way, it's like we have to really experience it and feel it to know we want it. To, you know, we have to know it exists to know it's possible. Yeah. And so I just, I also say, you know, I feel called to share that we're worth trying something new, and we're worth the effort it takes to put the self-care in, to feel a quality of life that's worth living and that's worth sharing. And it really is here, you know, and we can reveal a heavenly way of existing through what we're consuming and how we're consuming it, how we're breathing, what we're eating, how we're talking, how we interact with each other. It all matters. You know, if I'm going to yell at you, I'm going to walk away feeling like shit too, because that's just the impact of that kind of stress. And so if I'm going to tell you I love you, I'm going to walk away feeling the love, and you might as well. If you were taught a tainted version of love, then that word might not have the same relevance as to what it does for me. Though true love, I don't feel like true love can be spoiled. And so I think it's important that if we see no love and we want love, when we give love, there is now love. And so, you know, only you will love what you love the way you love it. And that's what I believe your magic is in our world. So if you want more love, be in your love and be in your joy, and it's inspiring. We light up. You know, you see somebody in their joy, and those of us who are more vulnerable might feel some sort of way about it. And those of us who want to feel joy too are inspired by that and say, I want to do that too. And so, you know, wherever we're at on our journey, just know it's okay to be gentle with yourself and that you're worth everything. And thank you guys. And, you know, keep up the great work in every way you can. You know, we're all just human beings, just doing the best we can as best as we can do it with gentle reminders from each other to be, you know, just be even better. And with that, once again, shout out buildersoil.com. Definitely check them out. They're a great resource if you want to learn how to grow your own food, or places to get soil, or just learn more about that. And subscribe to the Pharms Not Farms podcast on Spotify and Apple Music. And we're looking to be on more platforms as well. Also, check out all archived episodes of pharmsnotfarms.org. And as always, we'll end the episode with sharing the miracle of life, taking a deep breath on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love.
Have a great day.
You all too. Continue enjoying this day. We get to be alive. Most people throughout history are dead.
You're right.
We're the chosen ones right now. Let's make this happen.
Bless up, y'all.
Bless.
All right. Peace out.
Peace.
See ya. Bye.
Subscribe to the Pharms Not Farms podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts.